Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a legal saga that absolutely captivated the world and kicked off a global movement. We're going to break down the Britney Spears conservatorship, the personal story, the really complicated law behind it, and the legacy of her fight for freedom. So that was Britney Spears herself back in a 2008 documentary. Think about that. A global superstar at the top of her game, saying this from inside a legal arrangement that had just taken over her entire life. And that arrangement? It would go on for 13 more years. So, the big question is, how did one of the most famous people on the planet end up in a situation like this? Well, to really get it, we have to go back to a pretty turbulent time for her, a time that was full of intense media pressure and some really deep personal struggles. I mean, look at this timeline. It was just this rapid, devastating chain of events. The loss of her aunt, a very public breakdown under the constant flash of paparazzi cameras, a tough custody battle, and then a 5150, an involuntary psychiatric hold. It all just came to a head on February 1st, 2008, when a judge granted her father, Jamie Spears, a temporary conservatorship. Okay, so that word, conservatorship, it became the absolute center of this whole story. But what does it even mean? And why was Britney's specific case so unusual and honestly so confusing for so many people? So at its heart, a conservatorship is supposed to be a protective tool. It's for people who a court decides can't make their own decisions. It can cover money, personal life, or, both. But, and this is super important, not all conservatorships are the same. The specific type is absolutely critical to understanding what happened here.
And that confusion is key. For years, a lot of people, even some legal experts, thought she was under this really strict mental health conservatorship. But here's the thing, she wasn't. And that one misunderstanding really shaped the public conversation and the whole debate for a long, long time.
Okay, let's break this down because the difference is huge. Britney was under what's called a probate conservatorship. Notice how it can last indefinitely, and pretty much anyone can ask the court for one. The standard to keep it going is also lower. Compare that to the LPS, or mental health type. That one has to be renewed every single year and requires proof of grave disability beyond a reasonable doubt. This is not a small distinction. It changes everything.
The differences are so clear, they even have completely separate court forms in LA. Her case used probate forms. An LPS case would use different ones. It shows they're two completely separate legal tracks. And here's the really wild part. The probate path, which seems less restrictive, ironically became way, way harder for her to get out of.
So with this legal machine in motion, what was a private family issue started to morph into something else entirely. How did it just explode into this passionate, worldwide movement that, at the end of the day, changed everything? Right? This is the paradox at the heart of the whole thing. You've got this superstar bringing in millions of dollars, doing these incredibly demanding shows in Vegas every night, but at the same time, a court is saying she's not capable of managing her own life. That just didn't add up for her fans, and it sparked some serious suspicion.
The hashtag Free Britney movement didn't just pop up overnight. It started as whispers on fan websites way back in 2009. But it really caught fire in 2019 when a podcast called Britney's Gram got this explosive anonymous tip. Then, in 2021, the documentary Framing Britney Spears put the story in front of a massive mainstream audience. But the most powerful moment was still to come.
Then, in June 2021, the world finally heard from Britney Spears directly in a public court hearing. And what she said was just shocking. She talked about being forced to work, being put on medication she didn't want, and being denied the right to have another baby. This was the moment that confirmed all the fans' worst fears and just completely turned the tide of public opinion.
After 13 long years, fueled by incredible public pressure and her own powerful words, the conservatorship was officially over on November 12, 2021. She finally had her life back. But her fight did way more than just free herself. The intense spotlight on her case revealed some major problems in the whole conservatorship system, and that led to a real, tangible legal legacy that's going to impact people for years to come.
Yep, lawmakers were paying attention. In direct response to the hashtag Free Britney movement and everything her case brought to light, California passed Assembly Bill 1663. It was signed into law in 2022, and a lot of people just call it the Free Britney Act. Its goal? To reform the entire system.
So what does this new law actually do? Well, it focuses on three big things. First, it makes courts look at less restrictive options before jumping to a conservatorship. Second, it introduces this new idea called supported decision-making,
where people can use their own trusted network for help instead of a court-appointed stranger. And maybe most importantly, it strengthens a person's right to choose their own lawyer, a right Britney herself was denied for years.
So Britney's ordeal ended with her freedom and a landmark new law. But her story leaves us all with this huge, lingering question, doesn't it? It's a powerful reminder of that really delicate line we have to walk between protecting people who are vulnerable and protecting every person's fundamental right to live their own life.